Good morning. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Paul reminded me you better wear something green. No. The topic is from fear to love, not from love to fear. No, that's all right. When I first came to this center, one of the first books I read was Love is the Answer to Creating Positive Relationships, Gerald Jampolsky. Anybody read that, Love is the Answer? Fabulous book. It's at least 30 years old, but it's really, really good. And at the time, I was recently divorced from a 21-year marriage, and I came to Reading, and I thought, dating is just too scary. So for 2 years, I didn't approach that. But I found this center, and with that, I began classes to find out, who am I really? Because I was in a 21-year marriage with someone who always knew the right answer, always knew how it should be, and I didn't have to think. So when I moved here, I didn't even know what color I liked. I mean, that's how basic it got. And so I wanted to find out, who am I? And what do I want to do with my life? I had a job, which brought me here, but what about the rest of my life? And Jampolsky wrote that the basis for healing the past, which is what you do when you get a divorce, is to heal our attitude. Because it's not the other people or the circumstances that caused us fear or upset. It's how we related to it, how we thought about it. We really create positive, loving relationships when we approach the world positively loving. We listen to that voice of love. Well, my ego at the time was saying, intimate relationships are not all that real. So be careful, don't get hurt again. What that morphed into was a fear like, oh my God, now I'm going to be alone. Because I got married right out of high school, and I was never alone till I got a divorce. Am I always going to be alone? But then, what was I looking for? Did I even know I was looking for anything? Was I really looking to improve my life? So Dr. Andrea had a class on discovering the real me, and I was worried I would fail that class. It's kind of funny looking back on it. But it was like being on a rocket ship and understanding the spiritual relationships that Jampolsky was talking about. I moved. I started building a home here. And the question came up to me, was all that based on fear or love? Well, Jampolsky put together a worldwide program called Attitudinal Healing. It's a belief system of love. Just like Ernest Holmes, our real spiritual self is pure love. We were created in love. At the core of us is love. God is love. By having a loving attitude, we can see relationships as opportunities for learning and challenges for spiritual growth. So I finally got the courage to start dating. Personal growth was everywhere. And thanks to a class that Dr. James offered called Creative Living, where he just dug down into your psyche till there was nothing left hidden in your subconscious mind, I made great strides in understanding myself, understanding the pathway of love, and my fear of relationships started to dissipate. I was really ready and open. And one of the funniest things, when you're ready to date, sometimes your friends offer you a blind date with a friend of theirs they know is just the right and perfect person. And a friend of mine fixed me up on a blind date with a grade school teacher. And I was impressed at that time at my reaction to this experience. Because previously in fear, you're fearing what if. But in this point, I was like, oh, a grade school teacher, no problem. So there was a knock on the door. I opened the door, and this nice-looking gentleman looked at me, glanced in my house, and saw my huge bookcase of books. And he said, you know what? This isn't going to work because I don't read. So my now loving person said, "Really? Well, would you like to go to dinner anyway?" And he said, "Sure." So we went out to dinner and got to know each other. And at the end, we both said, "Nice to meet you. Have a good life." But looking back on it, I was surprised at my reaction. I did not feel hurt. I did not feel like he didn't give me a chance. There was no woe is me. It was just like, wow, that was an interesting, quick experience in dating. So Wayne Dyer, he's the one whose book we've been using all month, talks about love, and he said, the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is fear. Because when we experience fear, love is nowhere around. When love isn't present, our belief in God isn't present. So my understanding is this thing we call love, it's an energy. It's the background energy of the universe. It's the essence of the universe. It's the essence of what infinite intelligence used to create all that is. It's the glue that holds everything together. We know the power of love when we've been deeply loved. There's something in our whole psyche that just lights up. And it's always available. So when we are in a dark time, we can turn on the light of love because it's always available. Maybe we remember our first puppy or our first kitten and how loving we felt towards it, or the first baby of a mother friend. Something in us lights up when we feel and experience love. Of course, right now, the world seems to be experiencing a great amount of fear. The egos that go with that fear are just amazing. And they shout loudly at us. There's a lot of things to fear. But what happens is we're back here saying, wait a minute. We're part of God's living design. We were created in love. The truth is, our individual souls signed up to be here at this point in time. Raymond Charles Barker, one of the most fabulous religious science ministers, kind of a curt person, kind of in-your-face person, but I love his book, The Power of Decision. He wrote, "You were born as intelligence in a universe of intelligence to unfold, create, evolve as intelligence. You are not an observer of the universe, you are a vital part of the universe. Intelligence created you to live in these times because you have the capacity and creativity to meet the challenges of these times. That's you right now. You have the capacity and the intelligence. You are the right person in the right place to create a right world for yourself." So I wonder, do you know someone who's reluctant to embrace love in their life like I was so many years ago? I was so scared of it for a while. Well, Dyer has some ideas on why people resist being loved. And if you're out there in the dating world, it might feel easy to feel incomplete or inadequate, because the ego wants to fill that inadequacy with things, with maybe new clothes, a new car, going to dinner, so we have no time to feel empty. We may fill it up, but what are we filling our soul up with? The soul yearns to love and experience love, to give and receive love. So every once in a while, it's a good time to check in with our attachments. What are we attached to? Now, I know I'm attached to my husband, Paul, and our cats, and I'm attached to this center big time. I'm attached to this philosophy. I'm attached to teaching it. I'm attached to being present with people. If we're more outer focused, have we forgotten that we've been created for love, to give and receive love? Because it's this process of going inward that creates our outer world in a more beautiful way. We really do seek love and intimacy. That's the reason, some of the reason people come here to be hugged on Sunday, because they get no other physical touch, physical companionship during the week. But the truth is, we're already complete. And I wish, for those of you who are new, that I could just snap my fingers and you would get all of this. But it doesn't work that way. There's a process for understanding this and experiencing it. As our vision statement reads, we inspire and encourage people to live spiritually fulfilling lives, which is, if you look at our newsletter and our calendar, holy cow, we offer classes, workshops, retreats, so many things to help bring you into this understanding of your value, of your importance here in this world. And one of the things we offer is opportunities to share our time with other members of the community and to make friends during those times. And it's called SEVA, Selfless Service to God. And we have 18 different SEVA teams. One of them is landscaping, one of them is cleaning, one of them is the choir. You could be an usher greeter, you could help cook on Sundays. There are a lot of times to join in community through a SEVA team. The only thing we ask is that as you serve in the spirit of love. We're simply invited to learn to be love. We're invited to see other people in that relationship of sincere respect for one another. The quote that Damien read from Mother Teresa is, she was touring the U.S. at the time, and she went to big cities like New York and San Francisco, and she said the most terrible poverty is loneliness and the feeling of being unloved. She felt that deeply in our society. So I think of young people today with social media, wondering how other people are judging them in their Facebook posts and their Instagram posts. It probably occurs to them at times, am I hanging out with the right people? Am I wearing the right clothes? Am I driving the right car? Do I have enough money? All these things that young people think are important to finding friends and intimate relationships. But these need for status symbols really give us away, because a new car may show that we're not inferior, but it hides the inferiority that required a new car. These status symbols are something. Sometimes they're a feeling of inadequacy, but sometimes they're a feeling of superiority, which is an interesting thing to think. But a truly loving mind is secure within itself and does not fear how it's perceived. A few years ago, someone said to me, I met someone in Bernie, they know you, and they don't like you. Do you want to know why? I said, no. That's none of my business. That's none of my business. I'd rather have self-love and confidence in myself. You never know why people think of you the way they do. So a truly loving mind is secure within itself and does not fear how it's perceived. You know, in a really loving relationship, love is always replenished. It's that cycle of giving and receiving. And here's the trick. We give the love, we know it's going to come back to us, and the universe takes care of the details of how that'll happen. And we can go, wow, didn't expect that. Recently, I've been invited to spend a few hours a week as a volunteer chaplain at a crisis center, a center where people go if they've attempted suicide or if they're addicted to various things. And after a few visits, I was very impressed with the process they use in helping these people become stable citizens once again. So I brought in one of my books. It's called 32 Easy Lessons in Metaphysics. And what it is 32 of my Sunday talks. And several people, I put them in the little bookshelf and then they disappeared. And the other day, one of the clients told me how she was laying in bed reading that book, and all of a sudden her whole body became warm and her heart started acting up, fluttering in her chest. And she said, there's some really powerful stuff in that book. It was significant for her, someone in crisis, to feel through the message, love, respect, appreciation, that you're always supported, you're always loved. So we were sitting there smiling, and I said, well, would you like a prayer? She said, oh, sure. Because she will be timed out soon, and she'll be going out back into the world, and I know that's a scary time for them. So I did a wonderful prayer of support and the love of God. And afterwards, we just sat there and grinned at each other. And I said, can I give you a hug? She said, oh, please. I feel really good. So that was a beautiful moment for her, but it was also for me. Giving love and not knowing where it's going to return from. Not knowing where I'm going to be feeling satisfied, but surprised at where it comes from. So then there's this thing about the college entrance scandal. Do you know about that this week? Raise your hand if you know about that. Okay, most of you do, good. Because if you didn't, it's just like, blew my mind. Paul and I are like going, what? What are these people thinking? Well, it's students that get into college based on a backroom deal for performance that they didn't do. And you know, cause and effect is very clear to us. What we give out returns to us. And so I know some people who were raised by parents who reprimanded them when they didn't get good grades and loved them when they did get good grades. So performance was always important to them. I get loved when I do what somebody else thinks I should do. And they felt safe knowing if I do X, I will get Y. But in this scandal, to not even have to perform as a student wanting to go into college is extremely spiritually problematic based on the law of cause and effect. Because the parents are pursuing goals at other people's expense. It's a fear-based behavior, not a love-based behavior. It's selfish, insensitive, disrespectful, and I don't use those words as judgment. I use those words to identify their actions. Because when you meet with a practitioner, we want to know what is going on, what has happened. And so those action words tell us a lot. As a minister, we see actions like this, and we can take a look at disrespect, insensitive, fear-based behavior, and we can extrapolate what might show up for them as they exhibit those behaviors. And after many, many years, I'm going to ask the practitioners about this soon because it's going to be very interesting what experiences might come out of that for the student and for the parents and the family. Because we believe that everybody is doing the best they can in every moment of every day. We believe they're doing you are doing what's in your best interest every morning, every afternoon, every evening, every day. Only you know what's in your best interest. And sometimes it seems bizarre that people would think this college entrance scandal would be in their best interest, but I think of the parents, and they may have a lot of fear. My child's not going to be able to qualify legitimately to get in Harvard or UC. So along comes a company that says, hey, for a few $100,000, not only will your child get into the school you want, somebody else will take the ACT test. And if you want them in a soccer program, we'll take their picture and put them on a picture of the best soccer player in the world. And you'll get in. So they planted a seed in the mind of the parent. You don't have to go by the system. You can make it happen with money. Now, they were probably fearful that there was no other way to get their child into the college that they thought was important. But what about that whole process? If you're planting a seed of fear for your child, that's the first place to check in at. And then you water it by lying. You're watering this seed. And then you agree to deceit on the college application. And you pay it off with an illegal activity. and the child enters college on totally false pretenses. My hope is that when the parents reach the point where it hits the fan, so to speak, that they go seek out a minister. I can understand it from an ego point of view, but from a spiritual point of view, it's really problematic. It's going to bring to them in their experiences things they never imagined. So it's important to catch ourselves, even in minor fear-based behavior, and look at what is the payoff I'm getting for that? What is the payoff? For these parents, it's the best school, the best potential for them to be highly successful. It's also bragging rights that their kids got into Harvard or whatever. I read yesterday at USC, they receive something like 45,000 applications a year, and they only approve less than 10,000. So it's really competitive, extremely competitive. But on our life, when we're not seeking that kind of high-level goal, you may have a payoff when you're seen as better than you think you are. It may validate that you're unique, that you're special. When people think more of us than we think of ourselves, we don't really have to change. We can hold on to that self-doubt, that fear. It's not like we're learning from our experiences, and then there's that entrance of guilt that shows up, that we're not being who we really are. And we can never forgive all of that at once. So where is love in life? God created you to be in perfect love because you're going to live eternally, and that's a long time. And so beyond the manifest universe as we see it, by going within and discovering the power of love that we have to not only make our life better, to have that cycle of giving and receiving love going on, but to like even smile at someone on the street, give them recognition, we create more love in the world. We respond to Mother Teresa's recognition of how lonely people are. And so I invite you to be on a Seva team. Seva is Sanskrit for selfless service to God, and it's based on love. Because as Dr. James, when he brought this to our center and then brought it to the whole worldwide Centers for Spiritual Living, the idea of Seva, you do it with love, and you don't expect any thanks. You don't expect people to go, oh, that was really good. You don't expect people to go, oh, aren't you wonderful? You do it only for love. If you do it for that, if you do it for someone else to notice you, that's fear-based love. That's fear-based actions. But when we do it just to give love, we know it's going to show up in our lives in very unexpected ways. Right now, you could help with all the debris out in the parking lot. The landscape team has their hands full. They sure would appreciate help. Or cooking food in the social hall for Sunday, offering a homemade dish at times. If we do it with love and no expectation, we are being in service to the world. Love is a seed that when we water it, is fully reciprocated in our lives. Many ways seen and unseen. Many ways in surprising actions or surprising touches, or just like the wonderful lady whose life was in chaos. You just made my heart flutter. It's so sweet. So there's no greater freedom than to realize that love is the answer, as Jim Paulsky wrote. Love is the answer. And I encourage you to do it today. Try it out. See what happens. See how you smile when it comes back at you. And let's pray to know that you recognize that. We always start out our prayers by saying there is only one. And for our new people today, it means that God has created everything. God created the whole universe out of the essence of love, the energy of love. So it's always there. And we are part of that. And it's up to us to choose love or choose fear, to stand in the light of love or give our energy and our essence to fear. It's a choice on a daily basis. So today, for myself and everyone here, I claim love rules my life. Love rules my day. Love rules what I say to people, how I look at people, how I participate in the world. Fear is a useless energy. It may awaken us to see we're off track, but it's not the truth about us. When we get beyond the fear in the world, that pounding essence of love is there. I accept it for myself and I accept it for you. And to check in with it, is what I just said loving? Or is it fear that somebody's better than me? I accept that fear rules my life, rules my talk, rules my walk. And when fear shows up, I check in and make the correction quickly, because it's supported by my soul. It's supported by the love of God. It's supported by every essence in the universe. So for this reason, I can relax and let go and let that love come back to me 150%, 200%, 1,000%. It's there and it's mine, and we equally deserve it. And that's the truth. And so it is. Thank you.